and welcome new sewers. So you probably found this video because you're trying to stock your sewing room. Welcome. I hope that I give you really useful information that'll help you get an idea of what you need based on where you're starting and what projects you're looking for, and also your budget range. Also, if you're looking to get gifts for a new sewer in your life, I hope that maybe these are helpful. I'd for sure always talk to the person you're getting gifts for to get an idea of what their real interests are and what supplies they need or don't need. But hopefully this is a good journey and a good resource for folks who have questions. If you're new to the channel, my name is Bianca, aka Bookhoarding, and I do a lot of costuming stuff. So that's kind of where my experience is coming from, but otherwise I hope everything's useful for you and your needs. And please let me know in the comments if you have questions and need extra help with certain things, and I'll try to help you with any of those things. So let's go over the basics. Cut to the chase. So this is probably the most important thing, because if you're going to be cutting fabric, you probably need things to cut it with. So I'm going to go over the most basic things about this, which is you need something to cut with. If you have no budget, start with basic scissors. And if you have more budget, we can get into the other things you can use. Fabric scissors are not going to be the same thing as paper scissors. And basically you should invest in a set of scissors that are never going to touch paper or anything else. That's really important because you need your fabric scissors to be sharp and not catch on your fabric and to nicely cut the fabric. If you start using your fabric scissors on other things, it will dull them, and it's really hard to get them really sharp again in the way that you originally got them. So I like to have two very different looking scissors for my paper crafts and for my fabric crafts. All of my fabric ones are blue and all of my paper ones are this black. You can easily just label them with like a piece of paper and tape, but the big thing when you're starting is fabric scissors or fabric scissors only. If you have a little bit more budget and you also want to get like a set that has little scissors, go for it. You can also just get individual little scissors by themselves. Embroidery scissors are great. You're gonna want little scissors to get little threads along the way. Those are really critical because like the bigger scissors are not gonna get in those corners or like collars and all those things that you may want for this little finicky work. So embroidery scissors or a set that has little scissors is going to be really good if you have the budget for it. Rotary cutters. Now this is my new favorite. This is definitely a thing that like as a beginning sewer you don't need, but if someone's getting you a gift or if you come across one that's really nicely priced, go for it. Rotary cutters are just like their little wheel, and you unlock the safety and you roll along, and make sure that you get one with a mat because you need to have the mat. I have a green mat here that came with this, and it helps to absorb. It's a self-heal mat, so it absorbs all the cutting. You definitely will dull this if you accidentally use it on the table. Also, you'll mess up your table. So rotary cutters are a favorite of mine. They're a little bit more expensive, they're bigger investment, but if someone's getting you something, ask for a rotary cutter set. Rule them all, aka rulers and things to measure things. This is also going to be really important for your sewing journey. To measure 3D objects, get measuring tape. I just have a loose tape here, but you can also get ones that are in the little rolly thing, the little capsule that like shoop, go back into the little roly-poly thing. I also have just other rulers. I really like this clear quilter's ruler because it not only has measurements on it, but it's clear, so when you put it on top of fabric you can easily see what's under the thing, like at the pattern, or when you're using your rotary cutter it kind of helps with that. There's also metal rulers, which I use mostly for cosplay stuff and for harder materials. Not necessary, but I'm going to include it just because I have it, and you know, if you're using stuff for EVA foam, you're going to want the metal ruler. I do not own French curves. I know a lot of people swear by them. A lot of people use them for changing patterns or making patterns, all that. I am not there yet, so I don't have them, but I will include a link to them should you want French curves for your various sewing or crafting needs. Needles and thread. So these are going to be your bread and butter. If you need needles for hand sewing or for your machine, get those. For your machine, you definitely want to make sure that you're getting needles that are compatible with whatever sewing machine you have, and try to get the array if you can, because there's different needles for knitwear, for leather, for jeans, for all of it. So spend a little bit of time getting to know your machine and what needles you have and you might need. It's much better to have extra needles on hand, because I have learned, as someone who broke 3 needles in one day on one catsuit, sometimes you just don't have time to go to the store. So get needles, especially if you have a sewing machine. Make sure you have extra because you do not want to have to do a last minute run to get them. I also have a bunch of sewing needles, hand sewing needles. I keep mine in this little magnetized thing. You can keep yours, and a lot of things come with sets. I was gifted a bunch that didn't come in a nice little plastic set, but you can see I have a whole thing of little sewing needles. These are hand sewing needles. These are not for the machine. They have a little eye that you put the thread through. These also can come in different weights and sharpnesses and thicknesses for different fabrics. I'd say just get used to them and spend some time using different ones on different fabric. Use a thimble if you want, see how you feel about that, because it's all about your feel when you're using hand sewing and getting consistency and getting that to feel right for you. So this extra needle thing is not a necessity. It's something that I just personally really love because I have started growing to love curved needles. For different projects, for different hard to get places. It is a basic assorted repair needle set. Most sewing places have these. They're really cheap. They have things and it tells you what each one's for carpet. One's bent for carpets and all this stuff. Bookbinders one for tents, pillowcases. It explains what they're there for, but it's just very different needles than ones that you're gonna get in a regular set. I love the curved needle. They're really nice for me for embroidery. So I recommend this as a gift. If you have a little extra budget, get it and try using them, because I've started using some of these for my other sewing projects and it's made a world of difference just for ease for me based on my needs as a sewer. If you are using a sewing machine, you should make sure that you get a case of bobbins. So if I remember correctly, my sewing machine came with a handful of bobbins that were compatible with that machine. But you're gonna need probably more than like 5. So I have a little bobbin case and I highly recommend it. This one for sure ignore because it has bobbins for a bunch of machines. Not all of them are compatible with the single one that I use. Some of them just came with things, but get a bobbin case of bobbins that are compatible with your machine. And what I like to do as my sewing hack is I make sure that I have at least 2 that are filled up with black and 2 that are filled up with white all the time, no matter what projects I'm doing, because if you have a bunch of extra, you're not really like taking up space. And any other primary colors that you might be using a lot, make sure you just have bobbins filled of those, especially for muslins and stuff like that. It's really nice to just have those ready to go if you know that you're gonna need them later. Again, black and white are my go-tos for muslins and stuff and for basic mock-ups, so I keep those handy all the time. When it comes to thread, when you're starting out, just get some basics. If you're just teaching yourself stuff and you don't want to worry about the color showing through, a basic thing of black and a basic thing of white, they're great. They're easy enough to get used to. It's really helpful. If you're trying to level up, there are a bunch of little kits that have different colors, different primary colors, and various variations of that. I'll show you mine in a second. But I think the big thing is when I first started sewing, I spent a lot more time doing basic black and white. And then I would get the thread that I need for a specific project. So you'll find as you go on your sewing journey that you will get a fabric that needs a specific color and maybe a specific kind of thread. So like the polyesters will need a different thing than the cottons, than my cat suit that's like a stretch knit. Those are things you're going to learn along the way. So I always say start simple with just black and white and then go from there based on what you're using. If you know a new sewer and you have the money, get them a set of thread. It doesn't have to be this big. Just any kind of set that has basic primary colors or different things like that is really useful and really nice, because then it means that that sewer doesn't have to go out and go find these things. There's enough variety in there that it'll probably cover the things they're doing. If it doesn't cover the projects they're doing, they can just use it for their muslins and mock-ups. It's a nice touch. It's really nice just to have it on hand so you don't have to constantly be going to the store. And definitely think about investing in that if you are a sewer who's maybe deeper into your process and you're like, you know what, I do hate going to the store all the time for thread. It's time to clean up our act, aka clean our sewing machine. So I don't have the full kit out for right now, but I will have a link in the bio for all these things, but also for one of these kits, which is a basic sewing machine cleaning kit. 100% don't clean your machine until you've watched some videos and you've taken expert advice on this and you feel comfortable and confident and you've read the manual. The manual will probably also have ideas on how to clean your machine. I've taken classes on this. I've sat in little workshops on this. I watch videos and I feel confident in it. But you do need to clean your machine. So think of this as like a double investment. A, spend some money on sewing machine cleaner, and B, spend some time teaching yourself how to clean your sewing machine, because trust me, it is a pain, but you need to do it. These are my go-tos. Like, there are a bunch of other little things that come with the cleaning kits, like magnifying glass, little screwdrivers for unscrewing stuff. I don't mess with any of that. I have the basic little brush and a little thing of sewing machine oil that I know is fine for my machine. And what I do is I'll put a little bit of oil and get all the dust off. Again, this is really basic. You should be watching another video on deep cleaning your sewing machine, not this, because I don't want to be liable for you having this education, because I don't clean my sewing machine every time that I use it. But you still need a sewing machine cleaner. Let's put a pin on it. AKA, you need some pens. You might progress to a level of sewing where you don't feel like you need them at some point, but if you're just starting out, I definitely think you need some basic pins just to like pin fabrics together, pin things together. I have a variety of them. I have thin ones for like more delicate fabrics. I've got thicker ones. I have like some boutonniere pens that are really thick that I use for like really big, intense projects that I'm using. I recommend just like a basic set of glass-headed ones so they don't melt if you accidentally iron on them. But along with your pins, you will want a pin cushion, or as I said earlier, I have some magnetic-based things that hold pins. So there are a bunch of little magnetic things. There are things that you can put on your wrist that are magnetic, or a wrist pin cushion like the tomato. Have those things handy and ready, because those are just things you're going to use a ton of, especially if you're doing a lot of, I feel like if you're doing a lot of costuming, a lot of things that involve 3D, objects, aka clothing, you'll need pens. So these are sewing clips, or just clips, I guess. They don't necessarily have to be sewing. These are really helpful for things that you don't want to put a pin in, or maybe if you're doing millinery or something like that. These are really great. I will do a close-up in that right now as I'm talking, I'm sure. These are great for thicker materials. They're great for like multi-layers of things that you don't want to put pins in. Perfect. I'm now to the tool that is not only incredibly necessary, but most associated with tears, a seam ripper. So seam ripper, you're gonna need. I have a bunch lying around the house in various sewing kits and sewing baskets. These are critical. You're gonna need them. Get a set, get a few, have them in different places, because when you need them, you need them. Just get it done. Have your seam rippers at the ready. It's that easy. It's a sad necessity. We aren't all perfect, and even if we are perfect, sometimes we still need to take out a seam. It happens. It's time to make your mark with some marking tools for your fabric. First of all, tailor's chalk. Yes, mine are broken. That's what happens in this house. Tailor's chalk is super useful. It's pretty affordable. It's the basic thing that's gonna wipe off or wash off of your fabric when you're done. Here are my favorite heat erase pens. Everyone has their own favorites. This is what I use. I trust it. I have used this for most of my projects that need erasable stuff. It's great. It's necessary if you're making garments. I don't know what else to say. They're helpful. Some notes on some of the sewing kits that are out there. If you are gifting someone something, I think definitely ask them if they have the space for it, because some of them can be really big and not have a lot in them that's actually useful. Literally, I've seen some that have just the like hotel sewing room repair kit level of stuff in it, and they're really big and bulky. I personally prefer a caboodles type situation for my sewing products, because it keeps everything nice and orderly, and you have like different ways that you can like combine and move things around, or like those fish tackle, I guess, boxes, things like that, because the fabric based ones I just never really love, and they don't seem to have as many options for like things going inside them and being like able to go in and out without tearing a bunch of stuff. And also I've had really bad luck with needles and pins getting lost inside the fabric. So that's my only thing about sewing kits. If you're getting something for somebody, ask them what they need and maybe fill the kit up with that stuff, or look for caboodles and fill that with the things you already have. The next item on my list is ironic, because I used to never iron anything, even stuff that was like wrinkled beyond repair. I said, no, I will not iron. But I've learned I actually really like ironing things that need ironing. Does that mean that I iron everything? No. Does it mean I have a specialty iron? No. I have a really basic iron that can steam and has settings for different fabrics. That's all you need. Basic iron, basic ironing board, or like a tabletop ironing board. You may not use this on everything. You don't even have to use it on everything. I'm just saying, trust me, it is actually good to have this. As someone who used to not be a believer, I believe in the iron. There are definitely times that I've needed it, especially as I've gotten more into finicky fabrics that wrinkle when I look at them incorrectly. I get it. You don't have to iron your muslins. I'm not asking you to iron your mock-ups or anything. I'm just saying, I used to not be a believer. Okay, those are the basics. I hope they were helpful. Again, I gave you a lot of info. I know it's a lot. I have a blog post I'll put in the description that hopefully will give you info that could help you figure out what of this you do need or don't need. Please let me know in the comments if you have any more questions. I would love to help sewists, especially new folks getting into this, because it's fun. Anyway, please share, like, subscribe, do all the fun things, and make it so. It's ironic. I don't know.